Hello YouTubers, you're on the Dark Knight of Steel channel. My name is Frederick Lopez, and today I'm going to be going over my thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse. Now, I know I'm a bit late on this review, but I was out of state for a couple of weeks from Texas, so I'm barely getting back after a trip. But I did manage to see X-Men Apocalypse during my time off. And while it's not the best X-Men movie ever made, certainly not better than Days of Future Past, X-Men 2 or First Class, I think it is a worthy installment to the X-Men series, and Bryan Singer knocks out of the park in my opinion again. Let's start with the cons. It moves a little bit fast as far as like just being everywhere. It really takes a while for you to get in, but once everything's connected and you're into the film, then it starts moving pretty fast. But the first 30 to 40 minutes is just everywhere. It's not hard to follow, it's just a bit different than the usual linear story we're used to. I have to say that about superhero films this year, between Batman, Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Deadpool breaking the fourth wall, as well as Captain America Civil War and X-Men Apocalypse, they're very ambitious this year compared to previous years. They all don't follow the same formula. They kind of do their own thing each individual film this year, and I respect that. And especially with this X-Men film, it's very different from the other ones, and in a way a bit more complex. But that's the only thing I didn't like. And then Apocalypse, Oscar Isaac does a good job, but sometimes it's just a little bit cheesy at the beginning, where he's not as menacing. It kind of comes off as a 90s superhero film at times. And it's a very minor complaint. It's not a problem throughout the whole film, but when he's menacing, he is very menacing, especially when he starts recruiting each of the Horsemen. So when you get Psylocke, Angel, who turns into Archangel, Magneto, Storm, then you see why he does what he does, why he's such a threatening force, why he was buried. He basically wants to wipe out the human race and basically the weak, human and mutant alike, and keep only the strong for a better world. But you understand his motivations, and there is a lot of destruction in this movie, but I think it's done better than in Age of Ultron. It's up to that level, but it's not as bad as the other films. And not only that, he wants to destroy the world, or at least the weak part of the world, and his name's Apocalypse, so that makes sense. There's going to be a lot of destruction with a guy named Apocalypse in end-of-the-world scenarios. So I'm not really bothered by that too much, because I thought it fit the story. It wasn't just like them running around and then stuff blowing up for the sake of it blowing up in eye candy. It fit the story, I thought. James McAvoy, let's get to the cast. James McAvoy does a great job as Professor Xavier, as always. I've liked him in earlier films like Children of Dune, Atonement, even a small role in Chronicles of Narnia, but him as Professor Xavier has always been interesting. He's been a very different Professor Xavier than Patrick Stewart's, so he really continues the journey of the X-Men First Class and Days of Future Past Professor Xavier, but he's on his way to becoming the Patrick Stewart Professor Xavier we all know from the original X-Men films. Michael Fassbender also brings his A game as Magneto, and is a very strong performance, maybe the strongest in the film. It's nice seeing Evan Peters back as Quicksilver. He gets a little bit more to do in this film. Nicholas Hoult is Beast as Hank McCoy. Great. Jennifer Lawrence is good in the movie, but I feel like she just read the lines and is kind of there. She didn't seem like she was in this film as much as Days of Future Past or X-Men First Class. I don't know if it's a Mystique stuff, the script, whatnot, but she just seemed very bored in this movie. Rose Byrne comes back as Moira McTaggart. She does a great job. You get to continue some stuff from X-Men First Class between her and Professor Xavier. Sophie Turner joins the cast as young Jean Grey. You may recognize her from Game of Thrones. I thought she played a good Jean Grey. Slight complaint is that she has blue eyes and the other Jean Grey had brown eyes, but that's very minor, and I actually thought she did a great job as Jean Grey. Another person who does a good job is Ty Sheridan, who plays Scott Summers. It's nice seeing Cyclops in the film and getting his development and how it became the way he was with his eyes. You also have his older brother, played by Lucas Till, Havoc. He gets more to do, and they actually have him as relatives, even though it's reversed. It's his older brother instead of younger. Cody Smith McPhee plays Nightcrawler. He does a great job, actually. He reminded me a lot of Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler, Ben Hardy's Angel. Alexandra Shipp is Aurora Monroe, Storm. She plays a great Storm. I actually thought she was very much akin to the Uncanny X-Men from the 80s with a mohawk, so I really like that. Lana Condor's Jubilee. She does a good job, but most of all, it's pretty much like the animated series Jubilee. She's kind of just there. Olivia Munn is Psylocke. Now, she's good as Psylocke. I just wish they gave her more to do, but it's really weird seeing that she used to host Attack of the Show in G4, and now she's Psylocke. It's just very bizarre. And then you have Josh Hillman back as younger Colonel Stryker. And you get a cool scene there, which I won't go into my spoiler review, but let me just tell you this. There's parts in this movie that's X-Men Apocalypse, and there's other parts that Bryan Singer makes a better X-Men Last Stand and X-Men Origins Wolverine movie inside X-Men Apocalypse. So it kind of makes up for those two as far as like story and things that happen with the characters. So it's nice to revisit that material again and it being done the right way, as we kind of saw in X-Men 2 and the comics. So it starts off as a transference. So Apocalypse is like this ancient being, maybe extraterrestrial. He transfers his consciousness into other people to live longer, other mutants. He gets trapped there. Anyways, he ends up getting untrapped, recovered, and he's back in the world, and he wants to destroy the weak, like I said earlier. And pretty much the movie is the X-Men stopping him, and not only that, struggling between themselves. And it's a very different X-Men movie, because usually it's about like mutant rights and mutants against humans and how we coexist. And this is more of a super-powered mutant who just wants to destroy everything, and the X-Men having to go after him. And that makes it very different, and the stakes are a little bit higher than it is in the other X-Men movies, I feel. And for that reason, I can see why people may not like it between that and the pacing, but I thought it was good. It was very different. It's not the best X-Men movie by any means, but I think it's a solid entry compared to some of the other ones, like Last Stand or Origins Wolverine. It's among the stronger. I have it with X-Men and a little bit under Days of Future Past, First Class, and X-Men 2, X-Men United. But I like some of the Cyclops stuff. It's nice seeing the younger crew, but in a way this works. I mean, they're going to make another one that's set in the 90s, but in a way this could be the conclusion of the X-Men series, or even the First Class trilogy, as it's supposed to be. And you really feel that. There's a lot of flashbacks to First Class and Days of Future Past that really kind of conclude the First Class, Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy trilogy of the X-Men. It has that conclusion feeling to it, much like Spectre did for the Daniel Craig James Bonds. Overall, it was fun with some surprises. I give it an overall solid A and 4 out of 5 stars. Not the best X-Men movie, but it is good on its own. And it's one of those few movies where like it starts off kind of weird and disjointed, and then everything kind of starts to connect, and like each scene upon itself gets better and better and better until the end. And then the ending is just great, and there's a lot of throwbacks to the original films as well as the comics, and it's kind of cool how they're going over the storylines that took place in the Uncanny X-Men in the 80s and then the revamped X-Men in the 90s. Make sure to stay after the credits. There's a little sneak peek of what may come next in the future films. But Bryan Singer, I congratulate him. He knocked it out of the park again, I thought. He's just really great on X-Men, and they actually have some comic book stuff here regarding the outfits, so be sure to check that out. Those are just my overall thoughts. And yeah, go ahead and check my spoiler review here. I'm going to be having more in-depth discussion of what I liked and didn't like. But that's just my overall initial thoughts. I'm still kind of trying to process the film myself. I might see it a second time after I see The Conjuring 2 this weekend, just to kind of process it, because it does have a lot of material in it. And another good thing about the film is that not many films edit different locations geographically, but this one did it well without you being too lost. So I like that. But yeah, that's my grade.